could slow down a patient's cognitive decline.
We look beyond the text. We give you context.
Is China preparing for a war in the Himalayas? And tonight, we come to you with some proof.
Hypocrisy is stunning.
Do leaders mean what they say? Do they ever say what they mean? To find out how real news affects you, your decisions,
Just when Iran took one step in the right direction, its moral police is planning to drag it further back. And once again, the victim will be women.
watch Gravitas.
Welcome and thanks for tuning in.
We don't impose our views.
Did India threaten to ban Twitter? Either that or Jack Dorsey is lying to you.
That is Gravitas. We let life breathe through our show. Gravitas, the informed show for an intelligent audience.
Hello, welcome to This World. Vladimir Amelyan joins us from Kiev, and he is currently on the front line fighting Russian troops.
We believe that the world should be ruled by democracies.
I was interviewing you on television a couple of weeks back.
That's right.
And you said, if you really want to understand Jerusalem, why don't you come here and see it?
And you came.
Here I am. Mass shooting after mass shooting after mass shooting. Why this cannot be fixed?
There are 425 million guns in the United States, which is more than the population.
The problem here is Trump has been able to make the argument that this is a political prosecution and that he's being singled out unfairly.
Defend our nation.
You are saying we could have a cure for cancer.
We'll have treatments for many cancers in this decade. And they're going to come from India.
Downside is that it could potentially wipe us out. But let's start with the upside first.
The upsides are absolutely enormous. The potential uses of this are almost unlimited.
I only discovered AutoGPTs about a week ago and started writing about them.
Good morning, Asia. Good evening, America. You're watching World DNA with me, Raisha Sehgal. And on the show today, we'll get you all the details of a drone attack which damaged an Israeli-linked merchant ship off the coast of India on Saturday. Well, nobody has claimed responsibility for the attack. We will be getting you all the details on the nature of the attack. But first, the headlines on the show. Risks to commercial ships expand beyond Red Sea. Pentagon says a Japanese-owned chemical tanker struck Saturday off India's western coast, targeted by drone fired from Iran. U.S. President Joe Biden presses Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to protect civilian lives in Gaza as forces mount fresh military strikes in the territory. Tehran hits back, denies U.S. accusations of involvement in planning attacks by Yemen's Houthis on commercial vessels in Red Sea. Another instance of gun violence in U.S. Man killed after being shot multiple times inside Florida shopping mall. Police say victim was, and I'm quoting here, targeted. Our top focus on World DNA. An unclaimed missile strike caused a fire on board a merchant ship in the Indian Ocean. The vessel is reportedly affiliated to Israel. And now, as per the latest, US's Pentagon has said that an Iranian drone attack struck the chemical tanker. The Indian Coast Guard has dispatched a warship for immediate assistance. The Pentagon spokesperson said, and I'm quoting here, the vessel Chem Pluto, a Liberia-flagged, Japanese-owned and Netherlands-operated chemical tanker, was struck at approximately 10 a.m. local time in the Indian Ocean. It was 200 nautical miles from the coast of India. This was a one-way attack drone fired from Iran. Well, here is the trajectory of the ship MV Chem Pluto. It started its journey from the Jubail port in Saudi Arabia. The destination was the Mangalore port in the South Indian state of Karnataka. And here is the exact point of attack. The ship was struck by the suspected missile near Gujarat, that is the western coast of India. In response to the drone attack, the Indian Coast Guard has deployed India's Coast Guard ship Vikram. ICGS Vikram is currently directed towards the merchant ship in distress. All of the crew, including 20 Indians on the hit vessel, are reportedly to be safe. Well, an Indian naval aircraft was also immediately sent to assess the situation as well as the safety of the ship and its crew. The Coast Guard has also alerted all ships in the area to provide assistance. And for more on this, we are now being joined by maritime security expert Dr. Ian Arabian, live from Baltimore, Maryland in the US. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you so much. Good to be here.
Right. Now, this clearly seems like an escalation of the Red Sea crisis. No one has claimed responsibility for the attack, but the Pentagon in the latest has released a statement accusing Iran of attacking the tanker. Meanwhile, Iran has rejected all U.S. allegations of its involvement in planning attacks on commercial vessels. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, Iran has a long history of attacking commercial vessels. They've been doing this quite effectively and prolifically since 2019. And so this is consistent with Iranian behavior. However, it is too soon for me independently or any other independent source to confirm where this drone originated or where the attack was initially launched. But it does seem consistent with Iranian activity. And certainly there does seem to be pretty critical evidence indicating Iran's involvement in the Houthi attacks in the Red Sea over the last few days and weeks.
Right, Dr. Albi, like you mentioned, that the Houthis have attacked various commercial ships in the Mandab El Strait in the Red Sea, attacking the commercial vessels there. Can one draw any link to the attacks on the Red Sea by the Houthis and the latest incident that we just witnessed?
As I say, it's too soon to say for sure, but it does seem that this is a spillover of what has been an assault on international maritime commerce. What started as a Houthi show of support for Gaza has really quickly turned to being a much more aggressive attack on the global economy. What we are now seeing is potentially an even broader assault on that economy, and we now need to be prepared for attacks to occur well beyond the geographic limits of Yemen.
Also talk to us about the exact location of the attack. The MV Chem Pluto was struck very closely to the Indian coastline and not the Bab el-Mandab Strait where the attacks on the vessels have been taking place.
Yeah, actually, it's not too close to the Indian coastline. It is about 200 nautical miles offshore. So it's actually quite a far out attack in terms of just the distance from the coast. We are likely not to see the vessel actually arrive into Mumbai until Monday, and so this is a good ways out. But it is right on the outer extremes of the Indian exclusive economic zone. That means it is quite far afield from Yemen and even farther afield from Houthi-controlled Yemen. Obviously, between this vessel and Yemeni waters, we still have those we have the wider Arabian Sea and those of Oman. So this is a very far afield attack for the Yemenis, but we are much closer to Iran. Obviously, we have Pakistan in between, but that is still quite a distance. And so this attack is a bit of an anomaly compared to the others, all of which have been concentrated right near the Yemeni coast in Houthi-controlled areas. So this is quite, as you said before, escalation of the overall situation, at least insofar as the geography is concerned.
Dr. Albi, the United Kingdom Maritime Trade Operations has said that it is an unscrewed aerial system. What does that mean? Shed some light on that, please.
So this is not a missile per se, but it is an unmanned aerial system, which means that there is it functions a bit like a plane. It is a flying drone that is able to navigate, but it is armed with a light warhead, if reports are correct. Much like the Shahed 136 drones that we have seen coming out of Iran over the last few years, and which have been supplied by Iran to Russia in the fight in Ukraine. And so this sort of kamikaze drone, which is designed in order to be able to explode on impact with a hard surface, in this case a ship, is seemingly consistent with Iranian technology. That said, we've not seen forensics on it yet, and I do not have any independent way of confirming that. But the unmanned aerial system is fundamentally different than a missile, which is launched directly from shore or from a ship, and will only go in one direction, whereas this is more navigable. And so the question remains as to whether there were any assets that were involved out on the water nearer to this ship that were in any way helping to position the targeting of that drone. But as I say, without any further insight on the technology being used, it's hard to say exactly how it was operating.
Dr. Albi, do we have any information about the nature of the equipment that was used? Was it a drone or a missile?
It was, from all accounts, it was a drone. And so this is likely just a light warhead on the drone in order to be able to create more of an explosion on impact, which is consistent with what happened. As you noted, the 20 Indian crew on board the Chem Pluto were all alive and accounted for at last notice. And it seems that they were able to use the firefighting equipment on board the vessel in order to put it out. This vessel was carrying crude oil, so this presents a very critical threat to the marine environment had this actually caused a rupture of the hull of the vessel. But we are seemingly fortunate in that it did minimal damage in terms of what its overall potential could have been. Had it been a missile, we would have more likely seen a more extensive damage to the vessel.
My last question to you, Dr. Albi. What kind of implication will the latest attack have on the global shipping route, more so on the vessels coming towards India?
Every shipping line in the world is right now considering how these attacks are going to impact their operations, and it's having dramatic effect. Over the next few weeks, we're likely to see an increase in the price of everything, from food to fuel to basic goods, because the flow of maritime commerce is being disrupted, and the risk calculus for how to assess whether it is safe to send seafarers into certain areas is being affected. While this was contained previously in Houthi-controlled Yemen waters, it was possible to circumnavigate the continent of Africa and avoid being involved in any kind of firefight through the Red Sea. With this attack, we now have a new set of new calculations that have to be done in order to figure out what is safe. And as I said, 200 nautical miles offshore, in effectively the middle of the Arabian Sea, is a very big geographic expanse to now account for. And so we're going to have to redefine how we approach securing global commerce in order to try to make sure that it is safe for vessels to continue to float. This is a job for the navies of the world, and I know the Indian Navy is thinking very quickly as to how it can be involved in helping to support the continued flow of international maritime commerce, because we all rely on it everywhere on Earth, and we need it to flow rather rapidly.
Just adding another point to the statement you made there, that the ships are now rerouting around the southern tip of Africa. A longer route, adding 10 to 12 days of travel. But thanks very much, Dr. Albi, for joining us from WION and sharing your insights with us on this story.
Thank you so much for having me.
And Iran has rejected all US allegations of its involvement in planning attacks on commercial vessels. The attacks that were carried out by Yemen's Houthis in the Red Sea, as per the media reports. Well, the Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister kept on emphasizing on Houthis' independent actions and capabilities of carrying out the attacks. Iran, which is a staunch supporter of the group, has officially denied supplying arms. Now, this repeated denial comes after a White House statement where it insisted on Tehran's deep involvement. In a statement on Friday, the national security spokesperson said that Iran's intelligence was important and critical for the Houthi attacks on commercial vessels in the Red Sea. Watson further said, and allow me to quote here again, "This is consistent with Iran's long-term material support and encouragement of the Houthis' destabilizing actions in the region." The White House's accusations also prompted a reaction from the UK. The nation's Foreign Secretary, David Cameron, called Iran a thoroughly destructive force in the West Asian region and in the world too. He promised that the UK will increase the sanctions against Iran in the near future. The Houthis, who control major parts of Yemen, have launched over 100 drones and missile attacks on Red Sea merchant vessels. They claim that these actions are in support of the Palestinians facing Israeli bombings in Gaza. These attacks have forced the shippers across the world to alter their routes. Now, they are navigating around the southern tip of Africa to avoid the danger of the Red Sea. And some breaking news coming in at the moment. The US has shot down 4 drones launched from Houthi-controlled areas. This is according to the US Central Command, or CENTCOM. The drones were reportedly headed towards a US destroyer in the southern Red Sea. In a post on the social media platform X, CENTCOM said that these attacks represent the 14th and the 15th attacks on commercial ships by the Houthi militants since October 17th. The Houthis, who control major parts of Yemen, have disrupted world trade for weeks now. This with several attacks on ships passing through the Bab al-Mandab Strait at the southern end of the Red Sea. In other global news, Israel's main ally, the US, has kept up its support while expressing concerns over the growing casualty toll and humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Well, US President Joe Biden spoke with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, pressing him to protect civilian lives in Gaza. The conversation between Biden and Netanyahu comes a day after the UN Security Council passed a resolution demanding safe and unhindered supply of humanitarian assistance. However, senior Hamas officials criticized the watered-down UN Security Council resolution.
The resolution issued yesterday, Friday, December 22nd, 2023, by the UN Security Council, which calls for expanding the entry of humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip and monitoring it, is a weak decision and an insufficient step that does not meet the requirements of the catastrophic situation created by the Zionist terror machine in Gaza.
Meanwhile, smoke filled the sky over Gaza morning as air and ground offensive continues across the territory. In the latest casualty update from Gaza's health ministry, 20,057 Palestinians have been killed and 53,320 wounded in the Israeli offensive. According to the IDF, an Israeli fighter jet killed a Hamas leader named Hassan Atrash in the Rafah area in southern Gaza. Atrash was responsible for the trade, production and equipping of the military arm of Hamas. The Israeli army has released footage that it says shows its operations around the Isa area in the Gaza Strip, as well as airstrikes on different Hamas targets. Another video released by the IDF shows Defense Minister Yoav Gallant and Emergency Minister Benny Gantz visiting troops in northern Gaza. Israeli military spokesperson Daniel Hagari said that his country's troops were fighting in complex areas in Khan Yunis. He claimed that as a result of the Israeli operations to destroy tunnels, many militants were emerging above ground and firing at the Israeli forces.
Our fighters are fighting in complex areas for fighting. An area like Khan Yunis is also a dense area. We also locate the terrorist infrastructure, especially underground. We work very hard underground in Khan Yunis. We expanded the engineering forces there.
On the other hand, the devastation in the central area of the southern Gaza city of Khan Yunis could be seen, where some bodies were still lying on the streets as animals roamed around them. On the other hand, videos released by the Hamas military wing allegedly showed an attack on Israeli soldiers in Beit Lahaya. The video shows 5 men in green military wear walking near a building before multiple weapons appear to be fired at them. Meanwhile, thousands of people took to the streets in pouring rain in Tel Aviv to support families of hostages held in the Gaza Strip.
In what country does a mother look for her son in horror videos and pray that he was kidnapped by a murderous terrorist organization? In what country does a mother discuss with her son's friend whether it is better for him to be kidnapped or for him to die?
In yet another incident of gun violence in the U.S., 1 person has been killed and several others injured after a man fired shots inside a mall in Florida's Ocala City. The shooting broke out in the common area of Ocala's Paddock Mall on Saturday afternoon. According to the city's police department, the man who was killed in the shooting is believed to be the intended target. Several other people who were also in the mall suffered injuries during the shooting, with 1 person reportedly shot in the leg.
Ay, Dios mío.
The gunman is believed to have fled the scene. Police also say that they recovered a gun that they believe the shooter had used. A massive manhunt is underway to nab the suspect, who is described as a black male wearing a black hoodie and black mask over his face. The shooting took place at a time when the mall was witnessing a large footfall due to the Christmas shopping season. Authorities say that the mall will be locked down for at least 12 hours and has also advised locals to avoid the area. This comes as gun-related deaths are approaching 42,000 in the U.S. this year, that is, and this is as per the data from the Gun Violence Archive. The communities across the country are searching for ways to curb the violence as state-level efforts to regulate firearms in California, New York, Maryland and elsewhere have failed in court. And after Angola's exit from the OPEC grouping last week, Iraq, Nigeria and the Republic of Congo reaffirmed their support for the Organization of Oil Producers. The new commitment answers several questions raised after Angola's decision to quit the OPEC group. Following a disagreement over its production quota, Angola withdrew from the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries on Thursday. And this brought the group's membership down to 12 countries and raised questions about its continued unity. OPEC and its partners want to support oil prices, which have fallen about 20% in the last 3 months. Their plan is to continue with the production cuts. Now, the departure of Angola was mostly seen by experts as an exceptional incident, but the exit was an indication that the nation's production capacity had been declining, making it less useful OPEC member. According to the traders, the OPEC Plus output cutbacks scheduled to take effect next month are still in play. Other OPEC nations issued public statements over the weekend to forestall any speculation. Similar to Angola, Nigeria's production quota for 2024 caused dispute with OPEC leaders. However, during the group's meeting on November 30th, the issue seemed to have been settled. Iraq reaffirmed its continued support and new quota. Iraq will have to implement some of the largest supply cuts in the group starting next month. Let's now see what's making news in the world of sports. Tottenham Hotspur rose to the 4th spot in English Premier League points table following their 2-1 win over Everton. Brazilian forward Richarlison opened the scoring for the hosts in the 9th minute with his 4th goal in 3 matches. Spurs captain Son Heung-min doubled their lead 9 minutes later. Everton pulled a goal back through and in his first Premier League game since May 2022. Rebecca Welch became the first female referee to officiate a Premier League match where Burnley claimed a shock 2-0 victory away from Fulham with second-half goals from Wilson, Odbert and Sanderberg. Welch booked 3 players in the match which passed off without any major incident to VAR. Welch had previously been the first female referee to officiate an English Football League match in 2021 and a men's FA Cup tie last year. Burnley's win saw them climb off the bottom of the Premier League table but remain in the relegation zone. And now from the world of showbiz. Fast and Furious star Vin Diesel has denied allegations of sexual battery and sexual assault made against him. In a statement, the actor's attorney said, and I'm quoting here, Vin Diesel denies this claim in its entirety. This is the first time that he has ever heard about this more than 13-year-old claim made by a purportedly 9-day employee. There is clear evidence which completely refutes these outlandish allegations, unquote. The much-awaited Prashant Neel directorial Salar enjoyed a collection of $21 million worldwide. This marks Indian actor Prabhas's second release this year after Adi Purush, which failed to enjoy a good run at the theatres. Salar, however, appears to be a more promising release. Competing with Salar is Shah Rukh Khan's starrer Dunki. The movie has grossed nearly $12 million after running for 2 days at the theatres. Dunki marks Khan's third release this year after Pathan and Jawan. The movie also marks Khan's first ever collaboration with critically acclaimed Indian director Rajkumar Hirani. With that, we call it a wrap. Thanks very much for staying with us. You're watching Beyond World is One. Stay tuned.
India's global voice.
Israel woke up to a barrage of thousands of rockets fired from the Gaza Strip.
אזרחי ישראל, אנחנו במלחמה.
Hostilities have broken out between Israel and Palestine, and the tensions that had been gathering steam over the course of the last several weeks and months.
The siren has gone off. I don't know if you can hear in the background what's going on. I'm going into the shelter now. So it's a very, very serious situation here across Israel. It's a state of emergency.
The United States stands with Israel.
Well, we are starting this broadcast with a developing story from West Asia, where Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant says Hamas has launched a war against the state of Israel.
It's easy to tell you a flat story. It's easy to show you what's happening around the world. We do the difficult part.
This weapon has been banned, but the US, Ukraine and Russia do not find the bombs problematic.
We also tell you why what's happening.
A new drug is making a difference in the fight against Alzheimer's. This medicine helps slow down a patient's cognitive decline.
We look beyond the text. We give you context.
Is China preparing for a war in the Himalayas? And tonight, we come to you with some proof.
Hypocrisy is stunning.
Do leaders mean what they say? Do they ever say what they mean? To find out how real news affects you, your decisions,
Just when Iran took one step in the right direction, its moral police is planning to drag it further back. And once again, the victim will be women.
watch Gravitas.
Welcome and thanks for tuning in.
We don't impose our views.
Did India threaten to ban Twitter? Either that or Jack Dorsey is lying to you.
That is Gravitas. We let life breathe through our show. Gravitas, the informed show for an intelligent audience.
Hello, welcome to This World. Vladimir Amelyan joins us from Kiev, and he is currently on the front line fighting Russian troops.
We believe that the world should be ruled by democracies.
I was interviewing you on television a couple of weeks back.
That's right.
And you said, if you really want to understand Jerusalem, why don't you come here and see it?
And you came.
Here I am. Mass shooting after mass shooting after mass shooting. Why this cannot be fixed?
There are 425 million guns in the United States, which is more than the population.
The problem here is Trump has been able to make the argument that this is a political prosecution and that he's being singled out unfairly.
Defend our nation. You are saying we could have a cure for cancer.
Welcome back. This is Beyond World is One and you're watching the news with me, Aditi Singh. Let's get you all the top stories we are tracking at this hour. First, let's get you the headlines. Risks to commercial ships expand beyond Red Sea. Pentagon says Japanese-owned chemical tanker struck Saturday off India's western coast targeted by drone fired from Iran. US President Joe Biden presses Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to protect civilian lives in Gaza as forces mount fresh military strikes in conclave. Tehran hits back, denies US accusations of involvement in planning attacks by Yemen's Houthis on commercial vessels in Red Sea. Another instance of gun violence in US. Man killed after being shot multiple times inside Florida shopping mall, and police say victim was quote-unquote targeted. Mohamed Salah scores again for Liverpool at Anfield, but Arsenal hold on for a point in the crunch clash to stay on top of the English Premier.
Royale pursued by Andre.
We begin with our top focus right now. Israel's main ally, the US, has kept up its support while expressing concern over the growing casualty toll and humanitarian crisis in Gaza. President Joe Biden spoke with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, pressing him to protect civilian lives in Gaza. The conversation between Biden and Netanyahu comes a day after the UN Security Council passed a resolution demanding safe and unhindered delivery of humanitarian assistance. However, senior Hamas official criticized the watered-down UN Security Council resolution.
The resolution issued yesterday, Friday, December 22nd, 2023, by the UN Security Council, which calls for expanding the entry of humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip and monitoring it, is a weak decision and an insufficient step that does not meet the requirements of the catastrophic situation created by the Zionist terror machine in Gaza.
Meanwhile, smoke filled the sky over Gaza morning as air and ground offensive continues across the enclave. In the latest casualty update from Gaza's health ministry, 20,057 Palestinians have been killed and 53,320 wounded in the Israeli offensive. And according to the IDF, an Israeli fighter jet struck and killed Hamas leader in the Rafah area in southern Gaza. and the leader was responsible for the trade, production and equipping of the military arm of Hamas. Now, the Israeli army also released footage that it says shows its operations around the Issa area in the Gaza Strip, and as well as airstrikes on different Hamas targets.